Hello everybody, welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Suj.
And my name is James.
I feel like Nico's going to be upset because we didn't give him an intro today.
Oh, hi
podcast.
Nico.
Yeah, you know, normally we muck
FPL
around
manager.
before we start recording. The best FPL manager where?
In the Planet FPL office,
Okay.
let's say. Do you know how many points Nico got this week? This will make you feel sick, kids. 91.
Wow.
Nico, put your team up on YouTube. Yeah, 91 points. It's even better when you see where he's gone in the last 2 game weeks. He's gone from like 5 million to like 600,000 in 2 game weeks.
Wow.
And he hasn't made a transfer since game week 3.
Wow. I can't even find Nico in the...
He's right. He's above you, boy, for a start.
In the Correspondence League. That's very true. And I think he's above you as well, is he?
He is, yeah.
85
No,
points
91 because he's got Gabriel coming off the bench for Gvardiol.
Captain Saka.
Captain Saka, he's got Odegaard, he's got Ollie Watkins.
And he's gone Haalandless, which I think is the biggest takeaway from this. But Ollie Watkins, Odegaard, Saka, Trippier is a great return.
How was your FPL week?
So far, I kind of switched off because I didn't want to see the pain. 43 points. Which is below average as it stands. 41, because I thought Estepinian still to come off, any. But then I've got one more fixture left in Cabore. But generally speaking, over Fulham, Chelsea and the Luton Burnley game, I'm going to go down more. I don't think Cabore is enough to rescue.
You never know. There might be a 15-pointer.
Yeah, but it's unlikely.
Probably not.
But it's not as big a dip as I thought. It's probably about a 300k dip in rank.
Is that all?
Yeah, I'm quite surprised. I expected it to be a lot more. This season's been crazy. I think I've yo-yoed between 1.2 million and 300,000 regularly. This is crazy. So yeah, 43.
We know there's some exceptional FPL managers who are ranked like 4 or 5 million at the moment. They won't finish there. It's been a difficult start for many. I mean, look at that in terms of, say, our correspondent league, where I can say that 95% of the guys will finish in the top million. I'm fairly certain of that. And I'm 7th in that league at the moment, ranked at 750,000. So, you know, the majority of the guys are like well behind at the moment. They'll catch me.
Definitely. Yeah.
They'll also catch Nico before you get too excited, mate.
The returns for me were Alvarez. Again, he's proven to be Mr. Consistent, but I don't feel like he's a differential for me anymore because everybody's kind of gone there. Saka and Diaby, Saliba obviously returning defensive points. Diaby, there was a point, I think, after the second goal where I thought, well, he's matched him but he's only 5 points behind Ollie Watkins. This is okay. Ended up being a massive 15 points or what have you difference between the two of them by the end of the game, which was incredible. But yeah, Diaby, nice to have there as an asset. He could have returned more himself, to be honest with you. So yeah, all in all, not a great week at all, but you know, it's one of them. It happens.
Okie dokie. 62 -4 for me because I love Udogi coming off the bench for Sven Botman. I'd bought Botman and Heung-Min Son for a -4
Botman
last Sunday, went early. Was that who you bought as well, Suj?
Yeah. I've owned him for 3-4 weeks now and he's never played for me still. I've bought him twice.
Oh, you bought him twice?
I've bought him twice this season. I bought him in game week 3 and sold him again for Udogi before you played Sheffield United. So I bought him again this week.
And he still hasn't played for you.
And he still hasn't played a game.
That's magnificent.
And now he's red flagged as well.
That puts him into Hall of Fame,
Planet
stuff,
FPL
mate. Status.
Hall of Fame stuff.
You're did you make the transfer Saturday morning?
Yeah.
I mean, all the noises Friday night and Saturday morning was he was fine, right? Yeah. And then supposedly he's failed a fitness test, which I think is a bit dubious because it sounds like he's going to be out for a bit longer. But who knows? Maybe during that fitness test, they realised the problem was a little bit more severe than perhaps they'd thought. There's conflicting reports. Eddie Howe said before the game, I saw his interview, he said he's likely to miss a few games, but that could just be Paris Saint-Germain and West Ham, and then it's international break and he's okay. So it might be that he only misses one FPL game, but if it goes beyond 2, it's probably a sell. I'd mentioned to you, looking at rotation, if you rotated with Arsenal, Villa, Brighton and Tottenham, like once you got beyond the next couple, how often would you actually play him?
I did look at that.
Have all got really good fixtures.
The alternative, I wanted to go a bit different. It was a bit of a decision to whether or not to go with the herd, which is Newcastle defence, or try and swing against it a little bit. And so many that wildcarded have got two. It's kind of like, what's the point in having just one? It's really hedging. And I was toying with the idea of buying Zuma because he's a bit cheaper as well at 4.5 versus 4.7. But in the end, I thought it's just, if Newcastle do keep clean sheets and it goes off, it's going to hurt me too much. And I made the weak choice, I feel like, in going with a Newcastle defender because I wanted to be a bit braver and go with Zuma. And obviously West Ham kept a clean sheet. And he could have got on the score sheet as well, to be fair, because Sheffield United's defending was not very good at all. Yeah, good week for you then.
Yeah. I mean, mainly because of Ollie Watkins, obviously.
What a guy.
I mean, that's rewarding.
That's pretty much
right?
the difference between us is Ollie Watkins, really.
I mean, that's rewarding because I've had him from the start, and each week has been, I'm waiting, purely because...
He has been consistent, just not
doing what we'd wanted.
Big stuff.
And yet
but the last 2 weeks have been great.
Now he's like scoring player in the game, so... Look, there's a number of people who would have sold him.
A lot to be said for consistency, man.
There's a number of people who would have sold him last week for Alvarez, and I completely understand people that would have made that move. People who would have wildcarded this week, I think you'd have been more likely to go for, say, Diaby and Cash. It's completely understandable, to be honest. My view on him all the way through is I think he's the most consistent forward at that price bracket.
And it wasn't blank all season.
Wasn't someone that I wanted to get rid of. And in that sort of form, you look at certain weeks like when he plays Luton at home, he's even potentially a captaincy option, isn't he? So
the highest point scorer in the game.
Yes, he is.
And yet he is cheaper than when he started.
That won't last. He's getting absolutely steamed into.
How is he 7.9 when he started the season at
and ironically, for a lot of people, Alvarez, who obviously goes to the Emirates this Sunday, might be the person that many chop to go back there.
Up to 8, sorry.
Yes, he has, and I'm sure he'll be 8.1 before game week 8 starts as well. So returns for me, I had 5 flags. So I had Saliba, Botman, Saka, Son, Maddison. I played them all. I tweeted on Friday night. I was like, these flags are giving everyone the fucking willies, basically, and I'm not bothered about it. I thought they would all play, and the information originally seemed to be that Botman would. The other 4 started, and between them, there's some decent little returns there, 24 between the other 4. So Saliba 6, Saka 9, Son 7, Maddison the blank 2 points. Also had Alvarez for 8, Haaland captaincy blank, and 23 obviously for Watkins. We're pushing towards, I mean, what have I hit here? 58 net with a captain blank. Yeah, that's all right for a game week. So first green arrow of the season, actually, for me, Suj.
Wow.
I know. It was because I started so high in game week 1, didn't I? So I've just been getting chipped away at every week.
Boost.
So nice to have it back. Are you considering wildcarding?
No.
No, me neither. And
no,
I think
not at the moment.
There's a lot, obviously, to cover off in this podcast. I think we're going to do a podcast tomorrow specifically on wildcarding now versus the kind of December period that people are talking about, and looking at a few different options. Suj has actually asked to do this podcast, believe it or not. I think that's because you haven't got a clue, isn't it?
I haven't got a clue, and I'm going to be using my wild card, really.
We're going to have a look at that specifically tomorrow. I did plan out
what kind of transfers I'm looking at in the next few weeks, and this week is priority Spurs for me, which is Sonny. And then I've got Liverpool starting to look good, Aston Villa starting to look good, West Ham starting to look good, and obviously Newcastle is good now for a little while as well. So there are quite a few teams that I don't have any ownership in whose fixtures are getting better, but I'm not going to do it this week. I'm likely to just get Sonny in this week for Mitoma probably, and then look at what I want to do from then. But yeah, that'll be good to talk about wild cards tomorrow. Do we want to talk about... You said you were going to set a timer. And that's it. And we're only going to talk about it...
Do you want to say your piece first and then I'll set the timer?
I think that the PGMOL are bullshitters, firstly. Because the stories... This one incident with Luis Diaz has become such a saga. And I think it's because they bullshitted at the beginning about what had actually happened. I've heard the story evolve... Correct me if I'm wrong, from they didn't do a VAR check. They can't have done a VAR check because it was only like 40 seconds and something like that. So there's no way they could have drawn the lines. To the PGMOL saying that they admitted that the wrong decision had been made and that they should have drawn the lines and checked for the offside. To the following day, yesterday, I heard, so then actually what they said is they did draw the lines and check for the offside.
It's barely believable, this.
But the VAR guy thought that the referee on field had given a goal. So he said to the ref, go with the on-field decision. So the ref's like, well, that's not goal. So he didn't give a goal. And then they just carried on playing. But surely at the second you see that the guy's given the opposite decision to the one you were telling him to give, you just say, oi, mate, hang on. That's not the right decision. That's not what I meant. Surely you just say that. And I think they should release the audio of it all.
They have to release the audio. I think
as fans, we deserve to hear the audio.
Because we now know from little bits Howard Webb's done with Sky and TNT that the audio is available for certain incidents to be heard. And 100% that audio has to be heard.
I think it's ridiculous.
Let me know when I should press start so I can fucking rant.
It's ridiculous. And I don't believe anything. They've messed up. There's no way they checked that for offside. My personal opinion is they didn't check it, and they're trying to find the way to get out of the fact that they didn't check it. And it is ridiculous. And I think there's some real big problems with it. There were in the Sheffield United West Ham game, there were 3 handball incidents, which I think all of them might have been given, but we didn't really see much in the replays. And I think on all of those occasions, they just couldn't be bothered because they don't even know what the rule is themselves. So they thought, why bother taking the risk of giving and awarding something when we don't know whether we should or not, and what even the handball rule is anymore. And it was ridiculous. Go on, rant away. Should I go make a cup of tea or something?
You can do if you want, mate. So, first thing is I only watched 3 games at the weekend, partly because of all this nonsense. So I watched Villa Brighton, and I watched Nottingham Forest Brentford yesterday, and obviously I was at Tottenham on Saturday. So I'm only going to talk about incidents from those particular games. If there was others in you didn't mention my team, I'm sorry, right? Brighton had legitimate cause to ask for both Villa's second and third goals to be chalked off because there was potential Zaniolo in Steele's eye line for Watkins' second goal. And on the third goal, for me, there's definitely a foul on Solly March in the build-up. Also, the Nottingham Forest Brentford game yesterday definitely should have been, in my opinion, a penalty given to Brentford in the first half for a handball by Dominguez, not the one against Willy Bolly. In the second half, Michael Oliver's the only person I know that doesn't think that's a foul by Matt Turner on Brian and Mbeumo. It's absolute. Basically, if he lies on the floor, he gets given a penalty. But because he tries to get up and thinks I can score, he doesn't get a penalty. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely a penalty. However, these decisions are all subjective. They do, at the end of the day, still come to some form of opinion. Michael Oliver did not believe that was a penalty. There may be some other people who are listening or watching who don't believe that's a penalty. There will be others who don't believe it was a handball by Dominguez in the first half. Curtis Jones, for me, is a red card. I don't actually know what the argument is, but again, that's my opinion. For me, I don't, he didn't mean to do Bissouma. No, in my opinion, no, he didn't mean to do Bissouma. But if you go over the top of a football and make contact with someone's standing leg and it's straight and it's still, you're getting sent off. Mm-hmm. No doubt about it. I'm on that side of the ground quite high, and as soon as I saw it was off my feet, I thought it was a red card. I haven't seen the replays. I don't feel any different. It's a red card. Equally, Jota's an idiot. Clearly, the first yellow card is not a yellow card, but he could have been booked a couple of minutes before that, and people aren't showing that back. The second one, he's an idiot lunging in. When he's on a yellow card, you can't make that tackle. You've got to let him go. I have some sympathy with it. Clearly, on the first one, Udogie runs across his line, and as he runs, he clips his foot backwards, and it hits Jota's knee. It's never a booking. Of course it's not. He's unlucky. All of these are subjective. The reason why the Luis Diaz one made me so angry and should make everybody so angry is I think this is the worst decision, arguably, I've ever seen. Certainly in English top flight football. Maybe there's worse ones across the world.
Or from any officiating.
Arguably ever in English top flight history. And I'll tell you why. It's because it's matter of fact. There are 2 things in football that are absolute matter of fact now with VAR and goal-line technology. The ball crossing the line for a goal is matter of fact. We all agree with that, right? Everybody likes...
Not if you're...
Sheffield United.
Villa, Sheffield United.
Right. Everyone likes goal-line technology, right? VAR, the one thing, everybody who knows me knows I've been massively against VAR throughout, but I've had to live with it, that on offside, it's matter of fact. Last season, there was a decision, Arsenal against Brentford, which was really bad, that went against Arsenal, where Ivan Toney scored a goal, where they checked an offside that was onside, and then in the next phase, it went across the play. Christian Norgard was offside, but they never drew the lines on him, and a goal was given. That is a massive, massive mistake. You mentioned the Sheffield United one.
The ball crossing the line, yeah.
Goalline Technology failed. The VAR and the officials made an absolute cluster of just relying on Goalline Technology, despite what everybody could see with their eyes. I'd like to reference a goal that Matthias Jensen scored for Brentford against Bournemouth very, very recently, where not a lot of people noticed, but the Goalline Technology failed. And Bobby Madley and the team got the decision right and gave the goal, and they overruled the fact that Goalline Technology hadn't worked. And we never talk about those things when it's right. We just go, but they got it right. Because, of course, that's their job. Never, ever, ever have I known a football team be awarded a goal and not get given the goal.
Were they awarded the goal?
By fact, that's what happened. The VAR official deemed that it was a goal. That's the conclusion that was drawn. So the original after the statement of, it's a massive human error, it was then briefed to several of the significant media teams, such as Dale Johnson at ESPN, and then was obviously briefed to the BBC and the Match of the Day team, because they covered it as well, was that what actually happened was that the VAR official, Darren England, who was refereeing in UAE on Thursday, by the way, and this is where people get their stupid conspiracy theories from, decided that the on-field decision had been goal, and he decided it was a clear onside, and therefore check complete. And so literally gave Liverpool the goal. Do we understand that? That is what is massively different to, what about my team? Listen, all of them, every single one in history has a little bit of subjectivity where it's my opinion versus your opinion. Last week, Tottenham had a penalty against them with Christian Romero, which I think is a penalty. Most other Tottenham fans wouldn't have thought it was a penalty. I also thought Eddie Nketiah should have been sent off. That's a debatable one. Most Arsenal fans would probably disagree with that one. These are all opinions. By matter of fact, on Saturday evening, Liverpool scored a goal that VAR intended to award the goal. That was the decision. Once Tottenham had restarted play, by the letter of the law, they cannot then go back and reverse that decision. And of course, what had happened was people said, you should just go back and obviously stop the play. By law, they can't do it. They should have just overwritten it and gone, hang on, this is a big cluster.
Yeah.
Give the goal. Use your bloody noggin, irrespective of what the rules say. And the reason, obviously, people said, you should take your time to... But they deliberated that it was check decision correct. Because the on-field decision was offside, Tottenham were ready to take the free kick. So when Hooper, the referee, has obviously been told, check complete, on-field decision is correct, he just goes, play. Yeah. And Tottenham are there ready to take the free kick. So there's like a second. I was in the stadium 2 minutes after the goal. They still had it on the screen, checking offside.
But player was carrying on.
And obviously, I don't know anything. I'm sitting in a football stadium. I don't show a replay or nothing. And I think even when Son scored, it had only just come off the screen, like a couple of minutes later. And that's why on Saturday night, I tweeted, and it doesn't mean I agree with it, it's what I tweeted. There's not enough characters I can put in things. And people can reply with their, yeah, you're right, James, or James, you're an idiot, whatever. I ain't read your replies, because as soon as I see one, I just mute the conversation. I've seen this already. So... the reason I tweeted on Saturday night is, in my opinion, and I'm not saying they should, Liverpool had grounds to appeal. Not that they should necessarily be given the chance to replay the game, but sorry on this incident does not count. It's not good enough. Liverpool were awarded a goal that they were not given. That is fact. Also, I tweeted and said that I wouldn't have a problem if Tottenham agreed to replay the game. Do I want Tottenham to replay the game? No, I'll take my 3 points, thank you very much. But I said I'd have no qualms with it. No qualms, because I almost feel like that would be the right thing to do, because the legitimacy of a football result was compromised. Liverpool scored and were winning 1-0. And that doesn't mean, by the way, that Tottenham wouldn't have come back and won. We've seen that several times this year. Maybe that would have happened. I'd also make the case that Tottenham's defending was so bad on the equaliser that was practically giving Liverpool a goal. But obviously, the people in terms of Postecoglou, Klopp, the players on the pitch, they wouldn't have known shit. I said on this podcast a couple of weeks ago, when they draw the lines, we need to get over the camera angle's not good. We have to trust it. We have to trust it. this causes in question. Everybody's looking back at all the decisions now going, was that right? Was that right? Has this happened before and we don't know it when there's been several occasions in the past we haven't seen lines? And that's what made me so angry, is now we're having to sit here and talk about this. And football officiating now is completely under the table, worse than it's ever been in this country. Also, can all the teams that support small clubs who go, oh, checking club badge, I noticed no one was tweeting that on Saturday, right? There is no conspiracy. It's just absolutely awful. As much as I dislike and hate VAR, that is absolute idiocy from the officials in the VAR room, because for me, there is no actual way that they could have seen, looking at their pictures, that they didn't know that offside was given in the game. No one. Nobody watching that game live, even Liverpool fans celebrating in the moment, would have known quite quickly that the offside flag had gone up and play had stopped. How in the world, with all the monitors and everything you've got in front of you, can you not know that the on-field decision is offside?
Especially if you guys are set up to take a free kick from where the offside is given. Yeah.
Liverpool, for me...
Do you think they checked?
They should that's what they've done. They've just checked it and done it wrong. I don't... To be honest...
Is this a cover-up story?
The word... Well, we'll find out. The word is that they didn't need to draw the lines because it was clear to the naked eye that it was definitely onside. And I think most people can agree with that.
I thought that.
Yeah.
It was easy to see.
It didn't need the lines to prove that Diaz was offside. They've looked at it because they think the on-field decision is goal and just gone, he's onside, let's go, let's play. Because also everyone's going, oh, it's taking too long. So they'll look at it and go, well, he looks onside to us, let's go. It wasn't close enough to need the lines. He was comfortably onside. So they don't need the lines from that perspective, whether they use them or not. So, for me, in conclusion, I'm not saying that the game should be replayed, but Liverpool absolutely have the right to chase these avenues as hard as they do, because sorry for this one, is not good enough. It is different to all other errors because this is matter of fact.
Oh, that's good. That's a timer.
That's my timer.
Was that a whole 10 minutes? That was quite long.
I'm still vexed about it because Saturday night I should have been enjoying Tottenham winning. I had this question in my mind going, well, I think Liverpool got grounds to appeal this, so how much should I be celebrating here? Don't get me wrong, when Matip hammered that in the roof of the net, I went potty. Please don't misunderstand that.
Yeah,
we'll talk about the football in the game later on this part.
I'm apathetic, is I suppose my opinion on it. Really
apathetic?
Yeah, I don't care. Like, in the sense that, what difference does it make? Nothing's going to change type attitude towards it. We can moan as much as we want. But it's a nonsense. They're not going to change it. They're not going to take VAR out of football. So, we've got to deal with it until they can find competent people to actually run VAR. So.
They awarded Liverpool a goal and the goal wasn't given. I don't know if that's ever happened before.
That's crazy.
But and not just, he was challenging the keeper and maybe it was a foul or not. They awarded Liverpool a goal for something that was matter of fact. He was onside. This is what VAR was for, matter of fact. So, listen, we can look at things, I've seen people saying, Wolves should get to replay against Manchester United because Onana collided into Kalidžić. We all think that's a penalty, but it's still subjective and opinion. It's different. This goal was matter of fact. That's why it's different to every other error.
Should we talk about some of these games?
My team's second in the league.
Yes, they are. Aston Villa 6, Brighton 1.
Yes.
Have Brighton got an issue with claret and blue? I looked in the calendar. It's not until December they play Burnley, so they're okay for a while.
Okay, fine. Does that explain the mauling they got by Everton?
No. What colour were Everton wearing that day? Probably the yellow. Bright yellow, was it? No.
Black, I think, from memory. Yeah. I can't remember, actually. So Liverpool rock up in red on Sunday. It should be a great game. Villa went a bit more direct in the game. And Brighton just got completely overdone in central midfield on the second ball. So played a young boy, Jack Hinshelwood, who's only 18. And listen, he'll be a Chelsea player in 3-4 years or whatever, right? He looks a really good talent, really tidy on the ball. But him and Gilmour, to be honest with you, they got bullied in that area. Where Villa went a bit direct. And even if Brighton won the first ball in the header, there was always Diaby backing up Watkins or Douglas Luiz or John McGinn or whomever pushing on and coming into the second ball and then running at Brighton. And every time Villa went forward, they looked like they were going to score. And Brighton had moments in the game at the same time. If you look at the XG from the game, Suj, I think Brighton even had slightly better of it, which is unbelievable in a 6-1 defeat. But Stupinan had a really good chance at 0-0. Solly March missed a header. He should score at 3-0. At the start of the second half, Brighton obviously scored through Ansu Fati. which was a very good VAR check, by the way, despite the fact it took a really long time to get on with, because there was a couple of things that need to be checked in that. And you felt if it went 3-2, you felt it was going to be real backs to the wall for Villa and they were going to be in trouble. And then Villa's fourth goal, ironically, came a bit out of nothing, and I think Brighton's heads went from there. They have a defensive problem, Brighton, whenever...
Excuse me.
Bless you, Suj. Whenever they come up with someone up top who's got speed, like Watkins, and you can just pin it over the top and channels, or you pick up the second balls if he's beaten to it, they've got massive, massive problems. And we have to be fair and honest about this, because how much have we eulogised about Brighton on this podcast since Roberto De Zerbi came in the door? So when it goes wrong, as it went wrong against Everton, we have to be very critical. Remember also what we'd said after they lost to West Ham. We went, remember the recovery when they lost to Brighton. They went to the Emirates and won 3-0. After they lost to West Ham, they went and mullered Newcastle 3-1.
And then Man United.
Liverpool are next. This should be very... and then Man United. Liverpool are next after a bad result as well. Obviously, there's European game in the middle.
Yep.
And I think that's causing a bit of concern for Brighton as well, in terms of, yes, they've got deep squad and quality, but they're not used... De Zerbi keeps saying it. We're used to playing once a week and stuff like that. And we saw at the end of last season the challenges they had with playing twice. So really, really rough day. Defensively, shy. Adam Webster had a bit of a nightmare. A Stupinan obviously got hooked at half-time, which for fancy owners who had him in their team like me, that was good news, because he would have got more than -2
that's
if
true.
he stayed on the pitch. But who knows, maybe they wouldn't have lost.
He's coming off the bench for so many.
I think De Zerbi just decided to rip up as much as he wanted to, but the area that needed fixing was central midfield, and he obviously didn't want to hang the kid out the dry, so he left him on. And I don't think Hinshelwood was particularly bad, by the way. He just needed something with him like Pascal Gross. Pascal Gross has been a massive, massive miss. He might be back for Sunday. He has actually got an outside chance of being available for, I think it's Marseille they go to on Thursday night in Europe, which is obviously a huge game for the football club as well. Gross is the one that's been a real miss for them, because then suddenly you're looking at the team and you can't help it, right? Where's McAllister? Where's Caicedo? When the midfield's weak like that, when that was such a strong point for them last year, you'll start looking at it. And again, I didn't think Billy Gilmour was bad on the ball per se. It was all off the ball problems. Villa are going to get a lot of interest in FPL. It should be noted, by the way, Brighton's fixture run from Gameweek 10 swings back absolutely brilliant.
From Fulham they start with, didn't they? There's
a brilliant 5-game run. I'm personally really happy just to leave Stupinan and Mitoma in now. No qualms with that at the moment. Yep. For Villa, massive targets for people. Obviously, Watkins is going to be really, really popular. The RB... The news seems to be that he should be okay. The good news is, obviously, they play in the Conference League on Thursday. We should get some news before Thursday.
Yep.
We probably won't get it afterwards, although as it's a home European game, you might get an Unai Emery press conference on a Friday. When teams are away in Europe on the Thursday, that's the real ones that's really difficult to get information, because you really are relying on the after press conference, because in many cases they'll fly back on the Friday, so you're not going to get anything. As they're at home, you might get more on Unai Emery from Friday this week, but we should get an update before Thursday on Diaby. There was mixed reports. Originally it was it's a concern, but the quote that keeps getting repeated now is he said that for him and also Boubacar Kamara, there wasn't a major concern and it should be fine. Defensive players are obviously going to get looked at. Alex Moreno, we think is still a little bit away. I nearly bought Matty Cash last night because I knew he was going up in price. It did go up. It's gone up to 4.9, I think.
Ooh.
And I let it go, and the reason I let it go was I just deemed that with things like Saka and Son, etc., I just needed too much more information this week to be able to go early on it. That was the player ideally I wanted. And the reason I nearly went early was because the two moves that I potentially want to make in Game Week 10 now become unrealistic from a price point perspective, having let it go. So that's why I was very tempted to go early. But the conclusion I'm coming to is that I think somewhere down the line, Cash might become a problem once Moreno's back fit. And to be honest, although he got the assist for the goal, that was pretty much the only time in the game he really ventured forward, because obviously playing against an opponent like Mitoma at right back, he was quite pinned in, basically. So again, Villa had more of a bias offensively to the left-hand side. So Dean offers a really good alternative, but I'm very conscious that Moreno was getting close to fitness, appears to have had a little bit of a setback we don't have the info on. Also, I'm looking at it and thinking someone like Ezri Konsa, if I'm really short of the money at 4.5, that gives me a very fair option who's potentially an occasional threat at set piece. He's not as threatening as, say, Matty Cash, obviously, in open play. That goes without saying. But someone that cheaper, I think, can offer me a little bit of an alternative. And I might decide to go that way. That almost feels better than certain other ones who aren't huge threats from set plays, like Villa can be. So it might be, if I decide I still want to go there, and because I've got Botman and Gusto, it is likely that I'll make a defensive change this week. It'll be probably Cash or Konsa. Cash, if I'm okay with not making the moves I want to make in game week 10, which is very much targeting your team, to be totally honest, Suj. And if I still want to do that, then I'll go Konsa instead of Cash, I think. Also, midfield, obviously Douglas Luiz will get a little bit of attention, enabling price. I would say he's scored 5 consecutive home games or something.
Has he?
I think so.
Okay. Well, I mean, with the set pieces and penalties and stuff now as well, he's a real interesting asset.
This was following up the play when they were 5-1 up, this goal, obviously, right? Yep. And obviously eyes on Jacob Ramsey as well. Prices Ramsey, Suj?
I will check for you.
I mean...
5.9, James.
Yeah.
Probably a bit pricey.
I don't think you could do it this week, but it might be one, say, by the time that they play Luton in game week 10, it might be one that comes to the table and go, yeah, that's a reasonable get actually at that price. I really like Jacob Ramsey, and he'll improve Villa being back. Watkins is clearly going to get steamed into this week.
Let's talk about Bournemouth 0, Arsenal 4 in the end.
They've all played. But Martinelli and Trossard, right?
Yeah, they're injured as opposed to slight knock. But a good win away from home. I mean, Bournemouth are a difficult team to play against, and their pressing is quite intense sometimes. So to come away with it 4-0, they let Havertz have his confidence boosting penalty, little gimme there for him. I did see someone, I think it might have been Angus, saying if Arsenal had won a third penalty, who would Saka give it to this time? It's annoying when you have a fantasy asset and he should be taking the penalty and he gives the ball to someone else.
I mean, to be honest, we've kind of just known now, I think, since the Odegaard penalty at Crystal Palace in game week 2, that this might just happen. But
he is still first choice.
We've spoken about kind of moving the advantage away from the goalkeeper's preparation for the player into the player preparing for a given goalkeeper even, right? So, and both of those players in terms of Odegaard and Havertz, they both put the keeper on his arse the wrong way, right?
Yep.
That's not to say Saka wouldn't have done the same. But I think as Saka owners, we should accept that. I didn't look at it and go, I'm annoyed that he could have had hat-tricks, he could have got 2 penalties. I was more thinking from an FPL perspective, thinking, yeah, all those people have sold him and I've still got his points is more what I was thinking. I was 800,000 or so sold him, I think.
Yep, a lot.
The absolute panic over flags. What's he started for Arsenal? Is it 85 games in a row or something in the Premier League or something?
Ridiculous.
It's absurd.
Yeah.
So he falls into that category of player that if he's fit, he'll play. I had a discussion with Adam Pritchard a couple of weeks ago. I know there's a few things, I can go without Saka game week 10. It's not a captaincy option because he might get rested. Like, he'll play. Arteta doesn't rest him in the Premier League. He'll rest and rotate others if he believes he wants to. I think the spacing around that game for Arsenal is not a huge issue as well, because I think from memory it's Carabao Cup the midweek after. So it's like, that's where he'll get his break, isn't it? He probably won't start at West Ham in the Carabao Cup. So game week 10 shouldn't be a huge problem for rotating teams on that. So yeah, I did not want to get rid.
At what point is this a problem for Iarola?
Well, interestingly, he said after the game that was the first time he didn't really recognise the team and was really disappointed with what he wanted from the team, because and they've had obviously a horrendous fixture list, right? They had prior to the game only lost to teams that were inside the top 4, Tottenham, Brighton and Liverpool, and Arsenal's another team that you certainly would expect to finish there. So like the fact that they've lost those 4 games gives you an indication of the difficult fixture run they've had. What they're drawn with West Ham, Brentford and Chelsea. Yep. Like, it's been a tough 7 games. Now it's over. These next 3 games, Bournemouth need to start putting points on the board, which starts with Everton away this weekend. Everton are also obviously thinking the same thing. Got to put points on the board this weekend. So, look, if it goes beyond these next 3 and they've got no results in it, then there's going to obviously be major questions where the fans are going to start saying, well, okay, I realise what you're trying to do and you're trying to change the team here, but 3 points from 10 would be unacceptable. 3 points from 7 is acceptable on the fixtures they've had. They got 0 in their equivalent first 8 fixtures last season, the exact corresponding game. So in theory, they're 3 points up on the same games from last season. Now's the time to begin to judge them. On Arsenal, just briefly, again, I think if wildcarders do want interest in Arsenal, and I can understand now they'd be like, well, it's Chelsea away, it's Man City at home, or sorry, the other way around. But after Man City, it's only Man City at home and Newcastle where you feel uncomfortable. Like, I'm comfortable playing Saliba at Chelsea in Gameweek 9. Like, I'm not bothered about that. Gabriel over Saliba. Gabriel looks like he's going to stay in now, and as long as Zinchenko's playing, I don't think it's really questionable. It's only now, obviously, if something happened to the Ukrainian left back, then there's a question over the Brazilian centre back. But I think those who are in doubt into, what should I do for a move? Like, I don't know what to do this week. I'm sure most people don't feel like that, but if they are, and you're sitting there with Saliba, please consider going Saliba to Gabriel and putting a little bit of money in the bank. I mean, that's obvious to me.
Yeah, I agree with you definitely on that. Let's talk about Everton 1, Luton 2. Didn't see this one coming, if I'm honest with you. We both predicted Everton to win.
It's because Everton had a really impressive week, hadn't they?
And I'd been poo-pooing Carlton Morris all week. I didn't really think he was a good shout at all, but he proved to be a good shout in the end.
You'd have a green arrow if you'd have bought him in and captained him.
Yeah, for sure.
There you go. Those who captained him this week, really well done. You've won the game week, if you will, and you've still got a game to go. Good luck to you. I'd be wanting to get rid, though, straight afterwards.
That's exactly why I didn't go there. I just didn't want to look at it in my team afterwards.
If I'd have bought him this week, who would I have sold? Watkins.
Yeah, exactly that. You wouldn't have sold Alvarez.
No way. So it wasn't for me. This great result for Luton. Really, I wouldn't say deserving of victory, but I think Rob Edwards' comments afterwards about it was really interesting what he said. I mean, it's relevance to this the next week as well. He said, "Watch us in upcoming games. We'll get better every game," and they have. That no one's given them a slapping since Chelsea, right? It was Chelsea who looked weak. Then what they lost narrowly to yourselves, obviously, and they obviously drew with Wolves. They had another narrow defeat to someone as well that escapes me. In any case, they've been in games. They are a huge threat from set plays. Huge. Doty created 6 chances in the game. I think that was the most of any player on Saturday. And they're all from dead balls, which includes the brilliant free kick for Carlton Morris's goal. It's an absolute brilliant finish. Really good movement by the forward as well in terms of coming round the back, being able to come onto the ball, managing to stay onside and give himself the space. Really good movement. He does. Luton fans won't like this, but he really does remind me of Troy Deeney. He really does. Because Deeney was always someone you knew would score goals if given the chances, and he's good in the air, he's physical, better than probably given credit in terms of his play just generally as well. He's a real talisman for Luton, and he'll score goals given the chances in this league. Probably good for him as well that he's got an open play goal as well. It was also his header that led to Lockyer's goal when he managed to scramble it in when Ashley Young was defending against the line. It's unusual, by the way, Everton defending with players on the post. You don't get much of that these days.
Yep.
Part of that is a la kind of Awani's disallowed goal yesterday. Like, if you don't have to, if Brentford have players on the post, is obviously onside, right? That's why the majority of teams don't do it now. And I was also thinking as well about, you don't see many players sent off these days for handball on the line. It eradicates that risk as well, actually.
Yeah, that's true.
I think with the Luton players going forward, if you've got Morris, there's something to think about, obviously ongoing, but you can leave him there and rotate him, I think. And the likes of Kabore, if you've got, or if you're on Burke, etc., or Bell, they're probably going to sit on the bench for you most weeks going forward. The fixtures are bad after Burnley. It's Tottenham at home, then it's Forest away, which doesn't look terrible, but Forest's unbeaten record is long now, isn't it? It goes back into last year or something, doesn't it?
Round, yeah.
So that's challenging fixture. Then the fixtures get really tough and horrible. But yeah, really interesting that Rob Edwards said that he thought they would continue to get better. For Everton, it's a disastrous result, but
they needed to win that.
Missed big chances again. They didn't need to win it in quite the same way that they would have if they'd have lost at Brentford, right?
Yeah.
I think if they'd have lost at Brentford, lost at Villa, and then lost that at the weekend, there would
2.9 XG for Everton.
Exactly.
That's the story of the season for them, isn't it, really? Well, they've got a massive XG this season without
you look at
converting
them,
the chances.
Like in terms of, I haven't looked at it since the weekend, but I think the Brentford game had kind of levelled out their underperformance of XG. That at the weekend would have brought it back down where they're underperforming. But I think with Calvert-Lewin, I know Beto particularly missed chances. The addition of Jack Harrison will come into the scene soon. That there will, as long as they keep those players fit, Everton will actually score goals. I think Evertonians are beginning to wish they'd play every game away from home. Because home results are, I mean, that's the home games.
Is it the reverse Rex T-Rex now?
They've lost to, it could be. They've lost to Wolves, Fulham and Luton at home.
Yeah.
And obviously Arsenal as well, and they've scored 1 in those 4. Like, that's woeful. Bournemouth at home, it is massive. Despite what I said about Bournemouth, it's a bigger game for Everton because Everton's fixtures again afterwards. Then it's the Merseyside derby.
Until, as you've been telling us, game week like 32 or something ridiculous.
It's never good. There's obviously 1 or 2 good fixtures dotted in there, but it's never good. But then look at the way they played at Brentford and then the Brighton game in May. Maybe, I don't know, these more difficult games in a way might suit them rather than when the onus is on them. I mean, what did Everton have possession in the game? It was about 70%, wasn't it?
They did.
Like, that's not suitable for Everton.
No.
Because they're not good enough with it, is a reality.
Another team with over 70% possession, James, segue, was Manchester United, 77% possession against Crystal Palace.
High? Bloody hell.
77 versus 23. Yet, it was Palace that took the points, James. Possession doesn't matter. This is the theme of the year.
Unbelievably, Roy Hodgson is unbeaten in his last 5 Premier League trips to Old Trafford, which includes 3 wins with Crystal Palace.
Wow. That's incredible.
It is.
That's a great record at Manchester United.
And I imagine that anybody who watched the game on Tuesday night, which I didn't, in the Carabao Cup would have been thinking kind of this is a formality for United. It didn't turn out that way, primarily because Palace defended very well. They're solid, right? You look at that centre-back pairing of Anderson and Gay and think, well, if they stay fit, it's almost the opposite to looking at some teams you look at and you think, well, they'll score goals. Like, I don't look at Palace and think there's loads of goals in you. But I think they're 9th. They've put themselves in a decent position despite having some Midland fixtures so far. They've got their own positive swing coming themselves. But if those two stay fit at centre-back, like, they'll probably be fine. The goalkeeper's okay. The protection in front's fine. They moved Eze back into central areas. And it's interesting. I think that says more about Manchester United because he's played quite a bit on the left recently.
Yeah.
I honestly, I think it speaks so many volumes about Manchester United and wanting to attack and run at Manchester United in central areas. It's such a weakness for them at the moment. They've gone, actually, against these, he'll find more space in that area. So went back to obviously Schlupp playing, I was going to say in the front three, but it kind of plays a left-sided midfielder, just protecting Tyreek Mitchell for most of the game. You know, Jordan Ayew put the work in the other side. So no Edouard, no Lerma. You can say United are missing players. Palace were missing some players as well. It's a big victory. It looked like one of them United where they had a lot of pressure, but all the big moments they seem to be like scrambles or the ball going across the box rather than Sam Johnston making weldy saves here, there and everywhere. I think Palace largely defended pretty well. For United, it's that, isn't it? It's like one good result, one bad result, one good result, one bad result. To be honest, I just think it will continue. The whole football club's just not right at the moment.
10th in the table now.
And a lot of that's influenced by off-field stuff. I do think, by the way, I think most Manchester United fans, are probably of the opinion that changing the manager here is not the right answer. It's almost just like repeating old mistakes.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think probably United fans may need to realise that this is going to be a transitional and difficult season and then need to get their business right in the market next year. The problem United have is it feels to me like every window, it's like they fix 3 holes of problems. So like Onana fixed the goalkeeper problem. Some might argue he's not, right? But they've done that one. They brought Mason Mount in, who United fans obviously haven't been able to see properly yet. And obviously Højlund up front. And yet you've got other holes have now opened up in the team.
Centre back.
Not having a left back. So Amrabat's had to play left back this last week. And I think there is an attempt to try and obviously invert from left back under that. Yeah. But it's nobody's fault that they're without Shaw and Malacia. Now Martinez, who could play there, is obviously out for a sustained period as well. So problems have opened up defensively. Casemiro suddenly now, and has looked probably since about March, that he needs help in that position. Mm-hmm. Just like you fix those problems, now you got other ones. And it doesn't help that several big game players, for me, are underperforming. For me, it speaks volumes that they get in that position and take Marcus Rashford off. I was in no real doubt about selling him last week because, as I said, I'd watched 4 of United's first 6 games and for me, he just wasn't at it enough. And that's my opinion from a fantasy perspective. And I would, if I'd have sat there, because I'm such a fixture head, I'd still be sitting there going, Brentford at home this week. They've been shit lately as well. And you just keep. Meanwhile, half-fit Sonny keeps tearing it up, for example. The majority of United I'd have at the moment, I would sell. If you've got something that's rotatable, like Dallo, for example, I think that's absolutely fine. Yeah. But genuinely, Rashford, I would definitely be looking to move on. If you don't have Son, if Son's fit for the weekend, that's what you're doing, isn't it?
I'm hamstrung.
Because?
Oh, nah. Problem is, I don't want to use any of my transfers on a goalkeeper, so I'm kind of longing it out until I use my wild card to fix the goalkeeper problem, right? Who wants to use a transfer on a goalkeeper?
No,
so the most dull use of a transfer going.
And with the fixtures coming up, it's not a huge problem.
I was hoping
what you have to ask yourself though is, you know what he wants to be for you, Onana? He wants to be one. I would say don't take hits for goalkeepers. Like I genuinely wouldn't. Like people, I know I'll get asked that. It's I should take hits to remove Onana. Like no, the fixture's not bad. You're probably on the floor in terms of your expectations when he starts conceding in games like this. Although it's obviously a brilliant goal from Joachim Anderson, who's now FPL's highest scoring defender, by the way. Suj.
And it's still stinking out everyone's benches.
Yes, apparently so. Although anyone who owns him this week will probably play him, I would guess, in most circumstances. Anyway, he wants to be the one, when you're looking at a transfer and you go, I'm short, make him your excuse, mate.
Right.
Make him your excuse when you go, I want to get to Bowen in game week 10. I can't make that move. But if I go Onana to Areola, I can do it. Yeah, make that your excuse.
Good. That's the plan. Should we talk about Newcastle 2, Burnley 0? I didn't see this as watching our game, but felt like a pretty routine, comfortable home win for Newcastle as expected.
I think Zamduni had a really good chance quite early on at 0-0, but it didn't create a lot after that. Again, there's no real judgment on Burnley in terms of losing a game like this. I do think they're improving defensively. And the reality is they lost this game, and to be fair, Newcastle's XG was higher, but the two decisive moments are both mad individual errors. Aaron Ramsey wanted enough time on the ball where he could cross the time bridge, I think, in terms of allowing Kieran Trippier to come and tackle him, which is not, as a non-FPL owner, I mean, Trippier is like, you almost accept it if it's a brilliant cross into the box and stuff. You're like, don't be getting 12 points off a tackle, which is basically what he's done. And in fairness, I think Trippier put in 5 good crosses in the game, and there was other key chances created as well. So he could well have hauled even more again, actually. And Alderkill on the second goal as well was some bizarre header, and then compounds it where Gordon's a very clever player. So clever that he's picked up his 5th yellow card, by the way, this week. But he's very clever in terms of winning pens.
So he can't play against West Ham.
That's 2 penalties he's won now. Vladimir Soufal will be breathing a sigh of relief until perhaps Jacob Murphy tears him apart.
Harvey Barnes, mate. Harvey Barnes will be coming in.
Harvey Barnes is out for 3 months, mate.
Oh, is he?
Yes.
Oh, there we go. Harvey Barnes won't
toe
be.
injury against Sheffield United, and Joel Linton won't play there because he came on and went back off after 4 minutes with a hamstring problem, reported, not seen it. And Joe Willock is still injured as well. So it probably would be that they'd probably just play Murphy out there against you, I should imagine. Gordon's so good at winning penalties. There's 2 penalties he's won now where, let's say he's deceived. I don't want to say cheated or dived. Let's say on the continent, they'd call it really good play, right? He knows the tackle's coming from both Flecken and then Alderkill at the weekend, and he's gone, I'm just going to make sure I put my body in the way and initiate the contact. He's initiated the contact both times. He's the best in the league at doing it at the moment, just putting his body across someone and making them connect with him.
Yeah.
And they're both dubious, but the players shouldn't make the challenges, and I completely understand why they're giving it. It's good forward play. He won't be winning one on Sunday, as said, though, so it is 5th yellow. I think it might have been one that those who'd invested may have benched him anyway, because it's a challenging fixture, subject to what other people have got. So I think if you've invested, you'd probably be looking at it, I would guess, subject to what you've got in the rest of your team, probably looking at Newcastle's next number of fixtures. And actually, when you reflect on it, if it had been one to miss, you probably would have gone, West Ham.
Yep.
Miss West Ham rather than Palace at home in game week 9, for example. So if you've invested, probably leave it be now and crack on from there. Wilson, we don't know the extent yet. Isak, I presume, will play against Paris Saint-Germain. Whether he then plays against West Ham is questionable, subject to Wilson's fitness. So It's always the same with them two. Like, they'll score goals, but I just think it's a headache
It's
that no one
considering when you've got other good
really
assets.
needs.
Like, we'd rather go with the reliability of Ollie Watkins, or potentially now with Gakpo out, maybe Nunez. Do you want to waste that third striker spot on the Newcastle boys? Probably not.
Trips is obviously a good get. It's the same answer always, every week. If you're going there, just consider what your impact on your other transfers are. Kieran Trippier is the best defender in the game at the moment. It's not questionable. If you want to get there, just check your other moves. He's probably not.
38 points. He's probably 3 weeks.
For me, having just let Sheffield United and Burnley go, I'm not going now.
Okay.
I'm kicking myself that I let them two go. Oh, now he's going to West Ham, and now I'm going to invest.
Gambler's fallacy, though.
That's not my
but
game.
In reverse.
Really. So if I was going Newcastle now, I'd go to Burn, and again, it's influence of other moves. Also, big tasty Suj is 3.9.
Yeah, very cheap.
Jamal Lascelles.
He might be playing.
Obviously not going to last long, but if you're wildcarding in, say, game week 9 or 10, for example, you may get away with it for a few games. And again, it might be another one that enables you to get the sun this weekend or something else, right? So consider that. For Burnley, obviously those who've gone on, like for Bayer and things like that, like, it's fine. Their fixtures get better. I've not seen many teams with many offensive players, but if you've got it, panic to get off it. And obviously you may well get some returns tomorrow night.
Cool. Let's talk about West Ham 2, Sheffield United 0.
I will leave this one to you, sir. You must have watched the game, Suj.
I did watch the game.
Go on then, all yours.
It was a real disappointment from Sheffield United's point of view, if I'm honest with you. I feel like when you know that you're lacking in quality, you expect your team to make up for it in work rate and fight. They don't even have that. How do they go one up against you lot?
Long throw.
Yeah, they love that long throw.
Which we defended really badly.
They love that long throw. But honestly, from in the first 10, 15 minutes, we were winning the second balls. We were able to press their defense and midfield and win the ball back off them because they were just too sloppy. They were really rubbish. It's not reflected in the XG massively 2-0, but this could have been 4 or 5.
He had about 16 attempts, Sheffield United, I saw.
Yeah, all pot shots.
Okay.
What's the combined XG of those 16 attempts? Nothing. No,
Okay.
It didn't feel threatened at all. If it was one of those, no, he should have been
won
more.
By more. Okay,
yeah,
fine.
Should have won by more. Zero threat from them. And the good thing is, I felt like the performance from West Ham was much more professional. So when the big teams come across teams that they should be winning, they still can turn it on and go up a gear and actually put the game to bed. And we did that much more professionally than we have in the past. It's one of those that could be a banana skin, but I thought we played really well. That midfield 4 now that seems locked, right? Alvarez, Souček, Paqueta, and Bowen. Ward-Prowse, sorry. And then Bowen's kind of playing a bit higher up.
Well, so is Paqueta, isn't he?
They're kind of Paqueta's better in the middle, Ward-Prowse better in the middle, Souček's better in the middle, Alvarez better in the middle. So you've got kind of 4 central midfielders, but they really do well.
Paqueta can play on the left like Ericsson used to play on the left for Tottenham. Like he's there, but he's not really there.
No, because he pops up on the right, he pops up everywhere.
Emerson is better further away from your goal, if that makes sense. Yeah. It allows him to go forward and kind of have the touchline on the left-hand side. You wouldn't want to play Ward-Prowse on the left or Souček on the left. No, none of them work, right? No. So to get them all in the team, it's that. You're only putting Paqueta at this stage back in the middle if either you, go to a diamond and play Bowen right up front, or you take Souček out of the team and you go, we're going to put someone like Ben Rama on that side, for example.
And that's the alternative options now that West Ham have. Like, if it's a game that we think we want to win, and be more attacking, he can leave Souček out of the team. Well,
he hasn't done it in this one, so he's not going to do it in others, is he?
This is particularly, I think, because they're so bad at set pieces. And he thought, look, I'd rather have the height of Souček for the set pieces than the trickery of Ben Rama going down the wing. Souček's a good get. You know, at the moment, with Ward-Prowse's delivery, I think Souček isn't a bad get.
You didn't score from a set play.
No, but there was the... who popped
Bowen
up with
header. We talked about this
again.
last week. I told you.
He keeps but it's such a clean header as well. So we could
leap on him. He's really improving in
little
here.
Fish, isn't he? So yeah. That's a leaping salmon.
I wonder if Danny thinks he kisses like one.
Yeah, some good options there. I think all West Ham fans are now saying it's time to replace Antonio with Kudus and then see what we can do. But there's a lot of options for West Ham at the moment, and a few tricky fixtures like Newcastle's not going to be an easy game. But I think we'll be in it. I don't think it'll be the same as last season. I pray it's not the same as last season. What were they, 3-0 up after about 2 minutes or something? It was.
Oh, they destroyed you, didn't they?
Listen, don't worry, they destroyed you just a little bit after as well.
Yeah, but not at our place.
Yeah, it was away.
They only beat us at our place.
I think there's some good gets at West Ham coming up.
So a few questions. So Sheffield United looked like they played a system that was the same as what they played at Tottenham, and also near enough, certainly in terms of offensively personnel, where they changed against Newcastle with McBurney out and brought Norwood into the team. And they opened it up offensively with McAtee and Hamer pushing on a little bit more. And it just got destroyed, essentially. So it looked like they changed it with Vinicius playing kind of at the anchor of it and Hamer and McAtee a little bit deeper. I think McAtee is one that generally should be considered if you're looking to go with 3 up front, and that's your 5th midfielder because he's in that price bracket that can be considered. I'm interested how McBurney played, not in terms of, I know he scuffs a shot and his finishing isn't great, but I told you against us he won everything in the air against Mickey van der Ven.
Nah.
He would have played against Aguerd on Saturday.
Aguerd and Zuma had a pretty comfortable game. Yeah, there wasn't too much for him. Scraps, really, unfortunately.
Because that's their best avenue, by the way, is into him and then off.
It really got me thinking, like, are we now talking about targeting Sheffield United territory? Like, I'm looking at who they've got coming up. Who would I captain against them if I was going to go with that strategy? No one from Fulham, definitely.
Not Harry Wilson, no?
No one from Man United. But game week 10, you could definitely, if you wanted to go against
Saka.
Haaland, go Saka against them. I think that's a consideration. But other than that, maybe Brighton in 12, you might want to target.
The problem with that one is knowing who'll play for Brighton.
Exactly. So they're not really targetable because their fixtures don't make them targetable.
No, and in fairness, I don't think too many would have. I think I had Bowen 3rd or 4th on the captaincy on the deadline stream, but there wasn't really much for it. It was just Haaland versus Morris this week, really, wasn't it, for most people? You've been consistent, and the majority of West Ham opinions I've had, so it's you, Chris Stone, also spoke to one of our patrons, Sham, on Friday as well. You all were saying Ward-Prowse over Bowen. Do you still feel the same?
It's the gap's getting closer.
For me, it's definitely Bowen.
Gap's getting closer. I mean, it's $1 million price difference. So the question is, again, what does that million allow you? But Bowen is becoming more and more and more integral.
That's the one that was making me want to go cash early.
And
Bowen in 10.
The last, look at the minutes there, James. 90, 90, 90, 90, 90, 90, 90. When Kudus or Benrahma or whoever's been coming on, whenever the subs board goes up, it's never been his name. It's more likely Antonio comes off and Bowen goes and plays up top.
The only thing to add to that is your Europa League group is a bit challenging.
Yeah, we've got Freiburg away this week.
Yeah.
If we can win that, then I think it puts us in a great position. Then I think we'll be very comfortable. So.
And who else have you got? Freiburg, and you've got another decent team in your group.
Isn't it Olympiacos?
Yes, it is, yeah. The dead challenge, what I mean is you can't just go like full reserves and expect to go through.
No, but there's never been Moyes' strategy. It's always been rotate half the team, is what he's done throughout the conference, throughout European football. So he'll mix it up half and half. But yeah, it was as easy a game of football as you'll possibly see. Should we keep it moving? Should we talk about Wolves 2, Man City 1? Because I didn't watch this, but I kept an eye on the score update, and it was really amusing. And I'm one for always having the underdog beat the big boys, if at all I can help it. Would I rather Wolves beat Man City 2-1, or I got loads of FPL points? I think I'd rather Wolves beat Man City 2-1, to be honest with you.
There was a cheer in White Hart Lane about 4:30 that made me turn round and look at the screen. And I knew it wasn't a Bournemouth goal because Arsenal were already winning by so much that it didn't matter. It was people cheering. Wolves obviously scoring against Man City. Hwang, who according to Pep Guardiola, the Korean guy, really appreciate Wolves tweeting that the Korean guy scored as well. Fair game, because that's what Pep had said. He'd obviously just forgotten his name or saying it was the Korean guy, which that wasn't going to come back and bite. It was like, do you remember when he said, the Harry Kane team? Yeah. And then every time we played them without Harry Kane, we beat them.
It was as bad as when Pochettino forgot about Malang Sarr.
Oh God, that was horrendous.
That was pretty rubbish as well.
Yeah, there was the quite funny statistic that was going around at half time that Wolves were winning, and obviously they hadn't had a shot. But it has to be acknowledged, what a run from Neto, who has produced a moment of complete individual brilliance on top of the individual brilliance for the goal at Luton. And I spoke about the Luton goal, and I've been critical of people going and investing in him, to tell you the truth, for fantasy. But you look at those two runs and you do think, oh, that's the Pedro Neto that was getting linked with like moving to Arsenal for 50 million 2 years ago and stuff like that. So, yeah, I don't hate it now, actually. Now that the City game's gone, and now we've seen a bit of consistency over a number of games, so we know the chances created is good. Now we've seen the individual brilliance come out for two separate goals, one scored and obviously one assisted. I don't mind it at this
price,
stage,
mate, 5.6.
as a fifth midfielder that could be rotated in the sense, I don't know, if you had Neto and Morris and made a week-to-week decision in terms of which one you was going to start, as an example. Like, I don't mind that sort of thing. And their fixtures aren't terrible in the sense that it's the home games that are tough. But if we just had a tough home game and won it, he'll get space against the likes of Villa, Tottenham, and I think it's Newcastle have got at home in a few weeks as well. And the away games, they're achievable of getting results in. Really importantly, in terms of this result, doesn't tell us too much about what comes next, however. They played a 5-4-1, so they changed the system. Accepted that they were going to obviously have long periods without the ball. They dropped Cunha as the lone forward into deeper roles where rather than kind of being an out ball where he was isolated, he could drop into kind of like a 10 position, and then they could turn and have him and the two wide forwards obviously go and attack as a free and run at Manchester City on the counter. That works. And Dawson, as highlighted on Match of the Day, is obviously stuck very close to Haaland, which if you do that in a back four and you get pulled from your left-sided centre-back position into right-sided centre-back, you're going to get pulled all over the place. So they moved Kilman to right-sided centre-back. Toti Gomez came into left-sided centre-back. Dawson played in between it, but with the licence to go and deal with Haaland, and the other two would stay as the two centre-backs. And from that perspective, it worked. Again, in relation to Haaland, that doesn't mean that's going to work if A, other teams try it, or B, obviously more importantly, a lot of other teams won't do that. You know, Arsenal aren't going to go, we're going to play 4-4-1 against Man City on Sunday. Like, they're not going to do it, for example. Neither are Brighton in game week 9. Manchester United might in game week 10. Possibly, but if they got 5 defenders they can put on the pitch together, would be
possibly
questionable.
not. And if the one they picked to deal with Haaland's Harry Maguire, then I don't know who I'd rather, Maguire or Johnny Evans.
That probably would be a suitable role for Maguire. Just give him the task and say, in terms of if you're defending in a low block like that, and just say, look, your task here is just focus on deal with him. Don't worry about nothing else. Nothing else. Your just focus is stop him. He'd probably be all right at that.
No, he'd get himself sent off.
He might.
Yeah.
He might. For City, it goes without saying, obvious, Rodri, big miss. And it would be a huge miss on Sunday. We spoke last week about if Declan Rice was out for Arsenal, that might be an even bigger miss for Arsenal than Rodri would be for City. Now, we obviously know Rice is fine. By the way, I suspect Saka will be... he'll play on one leg on Sunday against Man City. I'm sure that'll be absolutely fine. Apparently, it's a new knock. How convenient. City are going to need to come up with something for Arsenal on Sunday. I think if they play that team, they'll get beat.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, I just don't... They won't have enough to deal with Arsenal in terms of turnovers and stuff in the midfield area, and they won't have control. And if Arsenal press... just think about this logically. I'm going to do a piece on this for advanced tier patrons, which is part relevant to the game on Sunday as well, because Rodri's unavailable. In Bissouma, Tottenham have a press-resistant midfielder, one of the best around at the moment, who you can feed in and you can trust. I don't know how much you trust Kovacic and Nunes if they're getting pressed back to goal and stuff. So if Arsenal get their press right against Man City and are brave, then I think they'll probably beat them Sunday.
Let's talk about the evening kickoff, built up as a big game and in the end ruined, unfortunately.
Enough of that, we've done it. If you're joining in late, like live on YouTube or whatever, like go back to the start for the refereeing nonsense.
It will forever be tainted, though, unfortunately. It's difficult to talk about it with the result post-game without actually referencing that. But
I will use my words. The legitimacy of a football match was compromised.
But taking that out of the equation, what would you have said? A draw would have been a fair result as the final outcome?
Oh, absolutely. In terms of the football, Liverpool deserves something from the game.
But a 2-2 or a 1-1? Or 0-0? Was it entertaining enough for you, do you think?
Look, we never got the the football match that many were hoping for. I kept saying on Friday and Saturday morning, I kept saying,
it's going to be amazing.
I don't see how this can be a bad game of football. And I think the first 20 minutes, it wasn't laced with like chances here, there, and everywhere, but you could feel the vibe, the tempo of the game. It was like, yeah, this is gonna be really good and stuff. Both teams wanted to attack and go for it. Liverpool probably shaded slightly, I think, that period 11v11. Then 11v10, we obviously dominated more, which you would expect, but Liverpool maintained an incredible threat on the counter-attack. Obviously with the disallowed goal, also the one right, I think, I want to say just before Gakpo equalised, I think, where Salah ended up on the left and nearly found Diaz in the box. Them two, by the way, absolutely electric. And then I'm going to come back on Salah specifically. And then 11v9, Liverpool absolutely held their own, brilliant. And the other thing I think is important to reference is, like, we've taken the piss out of Klopp massively. Oh, Klopp and your 12:30 kickoffs, like no one else gets it. And we have ripped him quite hard.
Yeah.
You know, the wind and all that sort of thing. Like, he dealt with himself really well, I thought, after the game on Saturday.
What you're saying is he didn't lose his shit.
But B, his decision... Right? I think that he had this would have been one where if he blew his top, he had every single right to blow his top,
and he
right?
didn't. You're right.
But they obviously went to a system that they never would have wanted to go to, where they've gone to, I mean, essentially, what was it? Like a 5-3 formation, basically, where then when they went direct from goal kicks, they tried to go to 3-5-0, basically. And it nearly worked, right? Let's be really honest. In that 20-25 minute spell where Tottenham were against 9 men, Tottenham did nowhere near enough on the ball, nowhere near enough, and Liverpool were compact and brilliant. All the things that we kind of criticise Liverpool and say, Liverpool can't be that. What I've seen from Liverpool over the last weeks, and I said to you, I watched back the Villa game, the Wolves game. I know you watched the game last week. I've obviously been at the game on Saturday as well. They've shown me now that they've got huge variation and variety in what they can do. Now, this is a unique circumstance going down to 9 men. So that's not a factor in terms of future weeks and stuff like that. But we've seen them play multiple different systems against Wolves. We saw them use Trent in a very different way, where he was moving into centre-back rather than midfield positions against Aston Villa, which really helped them with their build-up and their distribution. Obviously, they've had to do things very differently at the weekend. They can use their centre-forward like a Darwin Núñez who goes and plays on the shoulder. Or as soon as I started talking on Saturday morning on the deadline stream, I was like, yeah, what are they going to do about Bissouma? Oh, shit, Gakpo might play. Like, it dawned on me really late that it might not be stretch Tottenham. It might be defend Tottenham. And Gakpo can be similar to Firmino in that sort of role. Yeah. There's so many different things they can do. If there's, I know the Liverpool fans be feeling absolutely gutted at the moment. Here's a little bit of solace for you. If you win on Sunday, I think you probably will, I think you'll challenge for this title, and I think you're very capable of winning it, because Manchester City at the moment are a little bit light on numbers. Of course, I think City will win the league, but I think Liverpool are going to challenge for this. And Liverpool fans should be angry right now, but they should be very positive. Almost like a Liverpool 2.0 feels like it's going on now, where we've been so consistent and known for so long. 4-3-3, 4-3-3. It's kind of what we know, and this is what we get from Liverpool. Against Wolves, they basically played with wing-backs in the first half. It didn't work. They changed it up. They basically went 4 up front, completely overran them. They've got so many different facets to their game. What's absolutely key and instrumental is they've sorted that midfield with Szoboszlai primarily, who I'm not bothered, obviously, as a Tottenham fan, that his influence on the game obviously wasn't what it could be. Yeah. But I know what I've seen already, that he's a top player. I thought McAllister really stayed in the game well, because that's obviously not what he wants to be doing, just sitting in front of a back 5 and just defending and stuff. Jones's suspension will presumably give Gravenberch a chance to obviously show his worth in forthcoming games, although he may not start at Brighton, because that's one hell of a Premier League start debut, if you will. They might look at an alternative in there, like an Elliott maybe, just from an energy perspective. I don't know. Yeah. But I think Liverpool are good. And I wanted to talk about Salah, because I was thinking about this during the game. Obviously, he had a tussle with Udogie, and then after, not as in they're having a battle, not a tussle. Obviously, after the red card, he goes to centre forward because you don't want him ending up in right back positions. You want him through the middle and as high as possible. Completely understandable. But there was a moment early in the game where him and Udogie bounced off each other. Strength for that little bloke. And do you know what I was thinking is I'd probably never really seen it properly live before, because all the Tottenham teams I'd seen play against him over the years have been so petrified of him, they just backed off him.
Yeah.
Whereas Udogie went for him, right? Same as with Saka.
But you've seen Salah shirtless. No, he's always posing with his top.
No, I know, but then
man is ripped.
To see it,
get it.
To see it
get
live,
the model photos of Mo Salah.
His upper body strength for a little bloke and the speed of him.
He's ripped, mate.
Fitness-wise, he looks absolutely on top of it. Like, you know, if you want to get him in FPL, like, of course, like, brilliant. It's more at the moment, it's about sacrifice, isn't it? There's a lot of talk in the Twitter community right now. Do you sacrifice a Saka or do you sacrifice it? It's got to be something, right? You're not putting a team together with Haaland, Salah, Saka, Son, Trippier, Watkins. Like, you're not doing it. Let's be honest.
What's the news on Cody Gakpo? Because if he's out injured, because he did take a knock, didn't he?
Opens
then
up for Nunes.
It just makes Nunes a really attractive get. But he is up there as one of the worst trolls.
He had an injury
FPL.
problem himself, which is possibly why he wasn't used. I think Liverpool fans thought, we'll just leave him up front. But especially once you've gone down to 9, because Tottenham were just going side to side, right? And Liverpool kept their shape really well. He'd had a bit of a problem, Nunes, on Friday, where he'd kind of made Klopp's decision for him, where it was like he wasn't 100%. And they named him as a sub in terms of, like, take him to the ground, see how he feels. If you can use him late on, a la as they did in the victory at Newcastle, when also with 10 men. But do you remember Arsenal in the early noughties when it was like they went down to 10 men, they still used to batter teams? Like, I remember winning the game at Liverpool, actually, with 10 men. Liverpool with 10 men. Because the thing is, like, they'll defend deeper and you push further up the field. And
kill you on the
it just
counter.
means there's more space for Salah and Diaz, for example. The Nunes concern is game week 9. Is the Everton game. 12:30 kickoff. That's the concern. Because that's what you want him for, really, is get him in for that. Now, you could make a case, obviously, again, fast forward against Brighton, get him in now. Like, I get that. That's fine. But I'd also want him to play game week 9. Colombia play at midnight, Tuesday night / Wednesday morning. In the build-up to that Everton game. That's Colombia's for Diaz, isn't it? Obviously, Nunes for Uruguay. I think Uruguay have similar. I think it's the Tuesday night as well. So those two are both questionable. And Diaz is a brilliant option as well. You know, I really like him. Again,
he's fantastic.
Seeing him live properly as well.
He's fantastic.
Brilliant player. I think Van Dijk and Matip were exceptional in terms of the way they defended the game. You've got Trent to come back into that now as well. And that's a massive differential coming up. If people want to go down that route, Trent will get returns over this brilliant run for Liverpool. There's no doubt about it. So, yeah, interest in Liverpool is massive. I'm probably getting none. What about you?
I won't be this week particularly because I'm not tripled up on Spurs. And I think Spurs is an easy get for people because of the fixture with Luton being priority.
I also wonder, by the way, if Matip might stay in the team now. Okay. And he's obviously really unlucky with the own goal. Some finish, mind. But I thought Konate would definitely come back in for this one, and he didn't. So I don't know if Matip might have kind of regained. He's more experienced than Konate, isn't he? Is certainly one benefit that he has.
Right, let's finish up with Nottingham Forest 1, Brentford 1.
Hold up.
Oh, you want to talk about Spurs?
Yeah, we're second in the league.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
No, it is important to talk about it briefly. So, look, if you're on wildcard, Porro over Udogie all day long. It's not a doubt on that. Udogie's a great choice, by the way. It's not been him. I'm just saying, if it's a choice between the two,
and you have the money,
it's Porro, absolutely, definitely. Maddison and Son are both playing with injuries, and they should be cautious about that. I think more important in terms of the relevance going forward is kind of what I referenced, that Tottenham didn't do enough in that final period of the game when Liverpool went low block. And let's be honest, Son went off early. And Son went off early, part because of injury. But I'm not too sure how useful he might have been in that period anyway. I'm watching the last 10 minutes. I'm going, get the Argentinian boy Vélez on the pitch, Suj, because I know he's really good in the air. And Tottenham had to, for me, I think it was, listen, it's worked out. We've won the game. But for me, we almost had too many cooks on the edge of the box, and we need to take more of a chance and have more bodies in the box. Right? And I know what it was. It was trying to draw them out and then find little gaps, but Liverpool weren't coming out, which is quite understandable. They defended really well. But when we think about this weekend, I think many of us, particularly those with Son, will be thinking, I want to captain him. And my intention right now would be to do so this week. That is Haaland at Arsenal, especially if I think they're potentially going to get beat, and Son at Luton is the sort of one you're going, this could be one where it goes off. Luton are nothing like Burnley. That's really important. When you look at the possession stats, Everton having 70+% possession, you know that Tottenham are going to have a similar number at Luton at the weekend. Now, how beneficial for that is Son, that's very questionable. Key things need to happen. One, early goal. Early goal is important. I can't tell you if that's going to happen or not. Also, if he gets chances, he'll score goals.
Yep.
He definitely is, as I said last week, absolutely convinced now he's going to stay through the middle. We've seen that with Richarlison playing on the left at the weekend. Though I do note a little bit of caution on that I think Ange might have thought that Trent was going to play. And I think he was thinking, well, I don't want Son going from left wing into midfield areas. So if they had to adapt to that, it would be better if Richarlison went and followed Trent. So I would just consider that as a little bit of a caveat. But I can't see, if Son's fit, how he's not playing through the middle for Tottenham coming up, which means Richarlison's going to have to get used to playing wide. I've already had a couple of questions about, what about Richarlison as an option? Well, unfortunately, he hasn't got much composure in front of goal, and he's not really going to hit many barn doors given the chance. Brennan Johnson's injury is not bad. He was preferred at Arsenal. Manor Solomon was preferred for the 2 games before that. Know that if you gamble for Richarlison, because he's very reasonably priced, let's be honest, and he's got returns in the last couple, well, not against Arsenal, but Sheffield United, and then this one, then you know the gamble, it's not worth it. It's not worth when you need a little bit more for Ward-Prowse, for Bowen, or less for Ward-Prowse, or Diaby's a similar price. Like, it's a complete no for me on Richarlison. Plus, there's at least 4 other Tottenham players that I'd rather have. Son, Maddison, Porro would be the 3. If I was wildcarding this week, all 3. Cool. All 3 would go in. Just keep an eye on what's being said this week. We know Ange won't bullshit. He said Friday, look, they've trained, should be fine, shouldn't be a problem. He won't bullshit. Also, if they're concerned about Son, it is last game before an international break. And it could well be that they decide not to put him in the environment of Luton Town away, and then they can give him the international break off, like to heal whatever this problem is, because he is playing with an injury. So if you're sitting there, right, I certainly wouldn't be buying Son or Maddison early this week. They are clearly playing through issues at the moment, which hopefully get resolved during the international break. But yes, my intention would be to captain Son this week, but any doubt, the problem with this week with captaincy, I think, is there isn't great alternatives. Like if you do want to take Haaland on, Salah at Brighton is probably
next best.
Saka against City, but I think if I'm going to do that, I might as well just captain Haaland.
I agree.
It's kind of the alternatives this week aren't
great.
Villa at Wolves. We're going to captain. No, Wolves just beat City.
Yeah, true.
Trippier at West Ham.
No.
Or Isak at West Ham. Bowen against Newcastle. Like, it's not. If you want to take it on this, it really feels like Tottenham. I also think what I might do is, if I've got real concerns about Son, I might captain Maddison, because it is strange how, again, he's blanked in all the home games.
Yeah.
But his away record, what was we'd said before the start of the season, 18 of his last 20 away games for Leicester, he'd returned. It's another away game, and I don't know if there's a little bit more space, not that I think he'll get it on Saturday, but I could see me Saturday going captain Son, vice Maddison. I could see me doing that.
Okay. Let's wrap up the Nottingham Forest versus Brentford game. Ended up being 1-1, so no clean sheet points for anybody, no Brian and Bomo points for anybody, no Taiwo Awoniyi points for anybody either.
Yeah, there's definitely something wrong with me, because I enjoyed the first half of this, and okay. I realised, when people want to disagree with my opinion on the goal at the weekend, like you're entitled to, because people definitely disagree with that opinion. I enjoyed it because I've watched a very different Nottingham Forest, which we kind of knew we was going to get against Burnley. Then they reverted to kind of more of a back 5 against City. Then they changed again. I actually thought they played some really nice stuff in the opening 20 minutes without hurting Brentford, but they were dominating the game, Suj, right? There's definitely a different vibe going on with there's new personnel in the team. So Murillo played left-sided centre-back for his debut. He looks kind of, I don't know, shape-wise it doesn't look right, but he looks like a good footballer at left-sided centre-back. They played Niakate at left-back, which isn't ideal, but I think that was part protection for him on his debut.
Well, didn't end well.
Didn't end well. And it's right that he got sent off. Although I suspect the referee, who was the referee? Was it Paul Tierney? I suspect he was told to give him the second yellow card because it was a long wait. And you can say, well, that's not right. Well, I'm okay with that because that's the second yellow was the correct decision in my opinion.
It was Paul Tierney.
Thank you. I know Michael Oliver was the VAR official because I cannot believe he didn't give the Mbeumo penalty. We did that at the start. I'm not going to cover it again. So played with Mangala as a slightly deeper midfielder. And obviously Sangare and Dominguez in front of that. The two really kind of quick, wide, rapid players in Hudson-Odoi and Elanga. I thought Elanga was quite disappointing. Hudson-Odoi had good moments. And in the red card, they've obviously sacrificed both. The only thing with that is I felt the distances to Awoniyi were a bit big. Whereas Gibbs-White, because he didn't start, linked it. There was a really... I watched Cooper's interview, which wasn't his in-tunnel interview, when he came out and spoke with Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, and I forget who else was there. And he said that they were using Sangare a little bit higher at the moment, and they did really foresee him as a 6. Mm. And he basically said as well that Gibbs-White would come back into the team next week. So they said, like, he's played a lot of football. He'd obviously played for the Euros. He basically said this is his break. He was basically saying to me, Gibbs-White will come back in the team at Crystal Palace next weekend. So I don't suppose many will be on, but it's still a half-decent fixture. But I guess you'll be thinking of selling that if you've got. But the link without him, the distance to Awoniyi, I felt with the wide players, and it was too big. So it's an evolution where they're moving from what's really essentially been a 5-4-1 to variations here of 4-3-3/4-1-4-1. Against Burnley, it was a 4-2-3-1. So they're getting a bit more offensive, little bit more attractive to watch. That said, Brentford regained a foothold. Obviously had decisions go against them essentially, but also themselves didn't do enough because obviously the opening goal comes from a Jensen free kick, not an Mbeumo free kick, where Norwood scores. They check offside forever, which is fine. If that's what it's going to be,
get it right.
Although it was one of them. I thought Alan Smith he does talk some shit on commentary, but I thought he made a really good comment. It was like, we're looking at this and you're like, he's got no advantage. Whatever he is, whether he's on or off, there's no advantage. If you're just looking at this still, go, just give it. just give the goal. Matt Turner should obviously save it. More on him in a second. And then Mark Flecken should obviously save the equalising goal from Dominguez. But after that, obviously, they've played against the 10 men and they didn't do enough, Brentford, for me. Didn't do enough to hurt a Forest team that was absolutely knackered and out on its feet, to be honest. From the FPL perspective, the keepers. So the goal Flecken's conceded, just doesn't sort his feet, really. I mean, it ends up going over him, which I guess, you reach upwards. I don't know, it absolutely felt like when you think, oh, my goalkeeper would save that. That's how it felt. You'd be like, my goalkeeper would save that. I don't know if he just didn't move his feet. I don't know if he almost like he waved it over, like he thought it was going over or something. It wasn't even close to going over.
Lost perspective, who knows?
They're not right at the moment with Rico Henry missing.
No. It's had a real big impact, hasn't it, considering...
because he offers them a huge outlet. I quite like...
balance as well.
Lewis Potter's cheap, by the way. I think he comes into that fifth midfielder thinking maybe, but their fixtures are good, bad. It's kind of I was going to say bad, good, but it's Man United next, so you can make your own determination.
4.8 Lewis Potter.
Yeah, I think it should come into consideration because we know Sade's going to be out for a while. The problem with that will be... You would think, Manchester United at the weekend, what we're going to get? We're going to get back 5. Mm. But we spoke about this last week. I wonder if it might be Mbeumo at wing back now. Because there's 2 games in a row where that's been his solution. He's gone. And to be honest, it wasn't so much wing back at the latter parts of the game yesterday. It was very much a back 3 rather than him start. It's because Forest were down to 10.
Right? Yeah.
They might, because absolutely the progression in the build-up without Rico Henry's speed to join in is just not right. Ben Mee's experience is a problem at the moment. So, I don't think, in all seriousness, I don't think anyone's wildcarding now with Flecken in goal. If he's in goal for you, I don't think it's your biggest problem, most likely. But I wouldn't be going there at the moment. There's too many. It's just too many goals. I think are questionable, and therefore you question if he's going to hit the save tiers in the way that, say, David Raya did last year. Matt Turner.
You reckon he's going to lose his place?
Yes. Do you know what? His whole performance from start to finish, not just the second half, but even in the first half, he came off his line and shanked a few clearances. He just looked nervous all the way through it. Even the goal, he's got to save that. it's another one. You look at my goalkeeper saves that is one of them. He's got to save it. He's gone down a bit early. Then he doesn't get hands on it properly. The Mbumo incident that should have led to the penalty was an incident that was coming because he was taking too long and dallying on things very, very often. He just gave off nervous energy. He was giving a nervous energy to the crowd. And I think, do you know what? In fairness to Forest defenders in front of him, they largely dealt with that because the goalkeeper was stressed. When he came for things, he did claim the majority of things, but you felt he just had a nervous vibe about him all the way through. And yeah, I would think that Vlachodimos will come into the team at the weekend. That's not to say that he's necessarily a bad backup pick for Areola if you're wildcarding and doing that, for example, because he's still the cheapest goalkeeper who's most liable to get the minutes. But yeah, Vlachodimos didn't rock up there with any intention of being anything other than the number one. And I think that Turner performance yesterday would be the justification to change it now. Whereas, say, we've had concerns about Johnson for a while for Palace. Obviously, Dean Henderson got injured in that cup game last week. So that's fine now. I think the best pairer for Areola might be Neto, by the way. But you'd play Areola most of the time. So it's like, do you really want to pay that for 4.5 when you're going to use Neto like maybe 3 times in the next 11 or 12 or so? Because your fixtures are good enough now, Suj, for example. So I would probably, if I was wildcard, I'd probably still go Areola Turner, even though I don't think Turner will stay in the team. Forest have got an evolution going on, which also makes their picks quite tricky. If you are on Awoniyi, Palace away and Luton at home is still fine that you'll keep it. And I think Gibbs White coming back in the team would help.
Cool. James, that's a wrap on all the games.
And Mbumo, I would sell, personally. Subject to if you know what you want to buy and stuff.
There's so many good options in midfield. I think Mbumo's a goner. James, what do we have coming up for the rest of the week? I notice that our Clash of the Correspondents guest, one of them will be quite a happy camper this week.
They'll both be happy.
I only saw Bradley was coming on. Who's he coming to talk to?
Lee Jackson.
Oh, even better. Yeah, he'll be super happy. Well, let's see.
You think I don't time this shit? The start of Villa's run, and actually he's a better run for Wolves now as well.
Did you time it knowing that Villa would smash Brighton and Wolves would beat Man City? Of course. We knew those results were in the bag before those boys were coming on.
Yes, Wolves versus Aston Villa on Thursday with Bradley Parker, Lee Jackson.
And you're getting Lee before they play in the Conference League, so, you know, maybe he'll be happy before there's more misery in that for them.
We were actually recording tonight, but it won't be available for you guys till Thursday, except for patrons be available tomorrow. Tuesday, tomorrow, we're going to do a wild card, as you said. Look at some wild card options. This is Suj's idea, not mine.
It is.
Wednesday, Sky Fantasy Football. Obviously, I'll be streaming Friday. It's scheduled for 12. That time might change. Obviously, audio available after that as well. Our podcasts on Patreon this week are Q&A today, which I've made available to basic tier plus patrons as well, because no doubt it's going to be some refereeing questions and I can really have a proper effing rant on that one. Tomorrow, UCL Fantasy Match Day 2 preview. Wednesday will be Tottenham, where I'll probably talk about my Tottenham experience on Saturday a little bit more. By the way, if anyone's got a couple of spares in your way in for Luton Saturday, hit me up, please, because I can't get hold of a ticket. Thursday, Money in Football and a crisis at Scunthorpe United. And it really is a crisis, so just not funny. And Friday, Game Week 8 preview, the differential show. Our advanced tier content this week includes a look, as I said, on Arsenal's press in the North London derby on Thursday. That's also available for intermediate plus tier patrons this week.
Lovely jubbly. There's a load of additional content there. If you want to support the show on Patreon, you can just head over to patreon.com/ forward slash
Type in forward slash and see if you can find it.
FPL, and there's a bunch of tiers there. You can decide how you want to come and support the show. We'd love to have you over there. And if you don't want to do that, that's also cool. But just, you know, hit the like button or subscribe to the show wherever you're listening to it, and you'll get notified as soon as any of that additional content goes live. Want a few questions, James, off x.com?
Yeah, go on. Is there one reasonable refereeing one?
No. We've covered off the refereeing, I think, to the extent of FPL discussion says, what are your go-to crisps?
I don't have a go-to, I think. There's always a hope that if the wife's gone shopping that there might be Pringles in the bag when she comes back. That would be the one, I think. Green
Pringles are pretty popular for me. Or cheese and onion. Vinegar. Cheese and onion Walkers are probably my go-to crisps. But
what I have noticed, we've got a Tesco quite nearby, and if you're going for the meal deal,
yeah,
you know, you get the McCoys, And the McCoys want to get the most out, but it's the Walkers will have the most crisps in. I'm fairly certain of that.
I usually go with Pringles tub, but
Walkers are just more like air, isn't it?
Vardy Boys wants to know who you would sell between Saka and Rashford for Sonny. Clearly Rashford. Saka's an easier, longer-term hold, and with eyes on game week 10 with Sheffield United, I don't think I would.
I get it though. You've got Saka playing City at home and Chelsea away, while
tougher fixtures.
Rashford's got Brentford at home, Sheffield United away, and then you could flip it and go Rashford, Saka, and 10. But my take would be, unless you're in a complete luxury where your team is brilliant, and if you wild card, that's maybe an option for you where you can set that up. Because let's be honest, if there's an opportunity with respect to have Marcus Rashford against Sheffield United, then that interests more than Brentford at home this week. I get that. My take for me would be I cut off Rashford last week. I have absolutely zero regrets about doing that. It would be Rashford for me. It's just not at it. What is it now? 4 Premier League goals in 18 appearances or something?
Less now, I think. It's 4 in 19 maybe, I think. But whatever it is, it's not good.
No, it's Rashford for me. Whereas Saka's got more than 50% goal involvement for Arsenal. So, yeah, I wouldn't. Saka will play against Man City. Honestly, I'd be staggered if he doesn't.
Cool.
They just inject him if he needs it. They don't know how to rest this kid, so he'll play.
We won't have any more questions, James, but to one talking point I want your opinion on.
Go on.
Should the referees have been allowed to go to Saudi Arabia to...
It was UAE, wasn't it?
Was it UAE?
I think so.
Okay.
That's the problem. Darren England's gone
on the Thursday night
to UAE.
They refed. More, it wasn't just him. There was a couple, wasn't there? A few that.
Yeah, but he's the one who's come back and up, right? So that's the way he's going to be the one that gets the scrutiny. Unfortunately,
it's getting the spotlight because he's made a mistake. But I don't know to what extent the travel has caused him to make that mistake.
I think in terms of the error of not giving the Diaz goal. Only talking about because it's Liverpool. No, we'd talk about if it was any team. When it was Sheffield United and the goal line problem, we shouted about it as much as we could and stuff. So it's not a case of it's because it's Liverpool, but it doesn't help that I'm sitting here and going, I think they'll challenge for the title, and they've just gone and refed in UAE.
Yeah,
and who's got ownership of Man City, right? And this is where the conspiracy shit starts. I won't have it for a second. For me, they're just bad. There's no conspiracy. There's no, we're going to shaft Liverpool. We're going to do, or I won't have it. I will. The one that call them crap or whatever. I will not have the integrity or there's a conspiracy or certain teams are getting this or certain teams that or whatever. Right? Certainly not from a VAR perspective anyway, because you feel no emotional pressure of the crowd or anything like that. Right? It's just rank bad. It could have happened to anyone. I'm uncomfortable with it. I'm more uncomfortable with it because my team was involved,
Yeah.
And I don't want that because I want people to be talking about the fact my team's second in the league and it's a really good achievement. Whether we deserve to win on Sunday or not, Saturdays by the by, it's a good achievement for my team, but no one's talking about it, right? We're sitting here fucking having to do this crap. So do I think they should have gone? Well, the thing is, it's like anything, right? If you perform well enough afterwards, no one talks about it.
Yeah,
is the reality. But now you're feeding something, so they can't go again. And that as well. To be honest, if it had happened to any of the other top teams, if it had happened to Arsenal, it'd be same thing. People blowing about confessions and conspiracies and stuff like that. There's no conspiracy. It's just rank bad refereeing and stuff.
Yeah.
And they've got to sort themselves out. It's just the most unforgivable mistake ever. I can't think of anything worse. We've got asked on a Q&A on Patreon a couple of weeks ago, what was the worst decision against Tottenham that you could remember that benefited Tottenham? I couldn't think of anything. This is it. This is it.
I'm with you. I think they should be allowed to go, but you can't go and make a mistake in your job. And if you can't guarantee one without the other, then I don't think it's right.
To be honest, it's no different to say, let's say a footballer, right? Footballer goes out on a Wednesday night and he's for, even if he's spotted with a beer in his hand or whatever, if it performs on a Saturday, no one cares.
Yeah.
It's reality.
Indeed. Listeners, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Planet FPL. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back at you tomorrow. But make sure you stay safe, look after yourselves. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Be nice to each other, please. And good luck this week. Cue music, please, man-child. Done.
Right, okay. 11. So maybe in an hour we can do Q&A. I've got to just check a few things.
It is 11. Did you mean 12?